The translator Daniel Ward was not a soldier. He didn't carry a weapon. He had never trained in combat. He didn't even like loud noises. Daniel was a translator, a language expert. He worked in quiet rooms, filled with alien symbols and strange words. That was his world, not battlefields, not danger. So why was he on a mission ship headed straight to the most dangerous alien planet in the galaxy? The answer was simple. No one else could speak the Gorthak language. They were a huge, brutal species, strong like tanks, voices like thunder. The last time humans met them, it almost started a war. But now, both sides wanted peace, and for that they needed someone who could speak the truth clearly. Daniel was the only human who could do that. When he stepped onto the alien ship, everyone stared at him. The human officers didn't trust him. The soldiers looked at him like he didn't belong. One even whispered, "Why bring a nerd to a knife fight?" Daniel just smiled. He was used to it. He knew he wasn't a hero. He was here to do one thing, translate. But the Gorthak saw him differently. One of them, a tall warrior with deep scars and glowing blue eyes, watched Daniel closely. His name was Quran, the second leader of the Gorthak. He didn't say much, but his stare was sharp like a blade. When Daniel walked past him, Quran said something in his native tongue. It was quiet, but Daniel heard it. Let's see if he remembers. Remembers what? Later that night, Daniel sat in his small room going over notes. He played a recording of the last meeting between humans and Gorthak. Something about it felt off. The tone, the rhythm, almost like a secret message hidden in the words. He paused the audio, rewound it, played it again. One phrase stood out. "You cannot kill what is already reborn." Daniel froze. That phrase, it wasn't normal Gorthak language. It wasn't even alien. It was human, ancient, from an old Earth story. A warrior who died in battle only to return stronger. A myth, a legend. But why would a Gorthak say that? He felt a chill run down his spine. The next day, Daniel entered the main chamber for the peace meeting. The room was full. Human officers on one side, Gorthak leaders on the other. Tension hung in the air like a storm waiting to explode. Daniel stood in the middle. His job was simple: translate every word perfectly. At first, things went well. Both sides shared their hopes. They wanted peace, trade, respect. But then one Gorthak elder leaned forward and spoke a line that wasn't on the script. "One of you is not what he seems." Daniel's hands shook. He translated the words. The human officers looked confused. The Gorthak sat in silence. Then the elder stared directly at Daniel and added, "Some weapons are born wearing skin." Everyone looked at him. Daniel laughed nervously, brushing it off like a joke. But inside, his heart was racing. What did they mean? Was it a warning, or a message only for him? That night, Daniel had a strange dream. He was standing on a burning battlefield. Alien and human bodies lay everywhere. In his hand, he held a weapon, one he had never seen but somehow knew how to use. Voices called out to him. "Awaken. Fight. Remember who you are." He woke up sweating. He looked at his arm. There was a small symbol glowing under his skin. A circle inside a triangle. He had never seen it before. He rubbed it, thinking it was part of the dream, but it didn't go away. Daniel tried to report it. He told one of the officers that something was wrong, that the Gorthak were saying strange things, but they didn't listen. "You're just nervous," one said. "Stick to translating." Daniel nodded, but deep inside he knew something was happening. Something strange, something hidden. He had come here to translate, that's all. But now the aliens were watching him. His body was acting strange. Old phrases were returning to his mind, words of war, of power, of rebirth. Daniel Ward wasn't just a translator anymore, and soon everyone would know it. The words that should not exist, Daniel Ward had always trusted language. To him, words were safe. Words told the truth. They explained, connected, and revealed. But now, words were starting to scare him, especially words that shouldn't exist. 3 days had passed since the first meeting between humans and the Gorthak. Everything seemed peaceful. On the surface, both sides were smiling. They shared drinks. They talked about trade, technology, and peace. But Daniel knew better. The Gorthak were testing him. Every meeting, they spoke in riddles. Strange phrases, old words that didn't belong to their language or any alien language. Some of the words were human, old, ancient, almost forgotten, like they were speaking from the deep past, or from someplace even deeper. Daniel started recording every meeting, every sentence. He played them back in his room over and over. He used language tools, scanners, pattern analyzers. But they didn't help. The Gorthak weren't using logic. They were using memory. His memory. One night, while listening to a recording, he paused. A deep voice said something simple, just 5 words. "We are not your enemy." But when Daniel replayed it, the words changed. His ears heard something else. "You are not who you think." He jumped back from the desk. Was the recording changing? Or was he changing? He rubbed his eyes. His hands were shaking. His mind felt heavy, like it was carrying something he couldn't see. Later that day, Daniel sat alone in the meeting hall before the others arrived. He looked at the Gorthak symbols carved into the walls. Some of them were words. Some were warnings. And one of them looked familiar. He walked up to it. A triangle. Inside it, a small circle. The same shape he had seen glowing on his skin during the dream. He touched the symbol. A sudden flash hit his mind. Not a memory. Something more violent, like a scream from inside him. Voices, fighting, fire. His knees gave out. He sat on the cold metal floor, gasping. He wasn't hurt, but something inside him was waking up. When the others arrived, he pretended nothing happened. The meeting started. The humans asked for more time to plan the next agreement. The Gorthak elders nodded. Then one of them, an old warrior with metal plates in his jaw, looked straight at Daniel, and he spoke. His voice was low and slow, but Daniel understood every word. Not just the translation, the meaning. "Words are not always spoken," the elder said. "Some words are buried in blood." Daniel felt sick. He translated the line. The humans just blinked. The Gorthak were testing him again. But this time it felt different. Then the elder leaned forward and said something new, something that hit Daniel like a punch to the chest. Blood remembers. That night, Daniel couldn't sleep. He stood in front of the mirror, looking at himself. "Who am I?" he whispered. His face looked the same. His body looked normal. But something was wrong. He closed his eyes. And in the silence, he heard the Gorthak language. But this time, not from a speaker. From inside his own head. He understood it perfectly. Not just the words, the emotions, the rage, the honor, the war. He opened a secure file from his translator tablet, a file only he could access. It was called Language Echoes. He searched one of the strange phrases the Gorthak kept using. "You cannot kill what is already reborn." The result surprised him. It wasn't alien, it was human. From an old classified file in Earth's military archives, a project shut down years ago. Project name, Phoenix. Daniel's heart beat faster. He dug deeper. The file talked about human experiments. Not with weapons, but with language. They were trying to encode violence into speech, hidden triggers, secret commands, words that could turn a normal person into a killer. The project failed, or was shut down. And now, the same words were showing up, in alien mouths. Daniel closed the file. He looked at his reflection again. The triangle mark was glowing faintly under his skin. He took a deep breath. He finally said it out loud. "They're not just testing me. They're trying to wake me up. Behind him, the door beeped. Someone was outside. It was the alien war. The secret inside. Him, Daniel Ward, didn't sleep anymore. He didn't feel tired. He didn't feel hungry. He didn't feel normal. Something inside him had changed. It started small, with strange words, glowing symbols, and dreams of war. But now he could feel it every time he looked in the mirror. He wasn't just a translator. Not anymore. That morning, Daniel walked through the ship's hallway. The human guards gave him odd looks. Whispers followed him. He's different. His eyes don't blink the same. Did you see what he did yesterday? Daniel kept walking. He didn't have time for fear. He needed answers. He reached the med bay. It was empty. Perfect. He sat down and scanned his own body. Nothing looked wrong. Heartbeat normal, brain activity high, no wounds, no implants, but the scanner beeped. Unknown signal detected. Source: spinal core. Daniel stared at the screen. There was something buried inside his body. Some kind of device hidden deep in his spine. The screen flashed again. Signal active. Keyword response: Phoenix. Daniel froze. Phoenix. The same word from the secret file. The name of the old human experiment. He had thought it was just a code name. But now it was inside him. Suddenly a memory hit him. But it wasn't his memory. It felt like a dream, sharp and real at the same time. He was younger, lying on a cold metal table. Voices above him. He's responding to the code. Prepare for memory lock. Ward 47 is ready. Then darkness. Daniel gasped and fell to his knees. He wasn't born this way. He was made. Later, in a quiet corner of the ship, Daniel stared at his hands. They looked like translator's hands. Soft, careful, clean. But last night, during the second meeting with the Gorthak, something strange had happened. A small fight broke out between two alien guards. One of them charged toward the humans. The soldiers froze. Daniel didn't. Without thinking, he moved and fast, smooth, deadly. One twist, one strike, one takedown. The alien collapsed, and Daniel didn't even remember moving. Curran, the Gorthak warrior, had seen it all. He approached Daniel afterward and said in a low voice, "You move like the old ones." Daniel asked him, "What do you mean?" Curran didn't answer directly. He just placed his massive hand on Daniel's shoulder. "The words are waking you up. That is good. We need you soon." Need him? For what? Daniel returned to his room and pulled out an old file drive. He connected it to his tablet and searched the name he found in the medical scan. Ward 47. His own name was in it, but not as a translator. It said, Name, Daniel Ward Project. Title, Human Weapon 47. Status, Dormant Purpose, Embedded Translator Emergency Combat Activation Code. Trigger, you cannot kill what is already reborn. Threat level, unknown. His hands shook as he read the last line. Warning. If activated, Ward 47 may not remember who he is. It all made sense now. The dreams, the reflexes, the glowing mark, the alien whispers. They didn't choose Daniel for his language skills. They planted him here as a hidden weapon, a human sleeper agent in an alien peace mission. And now, the mission was falling apart. Suddenly, the alarm blared across the ship. Red lights, sirens, emergency broadcast, security breach in Sector 3. Repeat, security breach. Daniel ran toward the sound. He reached the hallway and stopped. Two alien bodies lay on the ground, blood on the walls. A group of human soldiers aimed their guns at a tall Gorthak warrior. The warrior held a broken spear. Daniel stepped forward, raising his hands. Stop, let me speak. The lead soldier growled. Step back, translator. This isn't your job. But the Gorthak warrior looked at Daniel and spoke one phrase. Not in Gorthak, but in perfect human English. Now it begins, Phoenix. And then, without warning, he charged. Daniel didn't think. He moved like a shadow. One moment he was behind the soldier, the next, between him and the alien, Hands up, no weapon. He caught the spear with both hands, snapped it in half, and his eyes, now glowing faint blue, stared into the Gorthax. They both stopped, breathing heavy, watching, recognizing, not enemies, not strangers, allies. The other soldiers aimed at Daniel, confused, but he didn't move. Didn't speak, because something inside him had finally unlocked. He blood on the ceiling. The hallway was quiet now, too quiet. Daniel stood there, hands bloody, breath sharp, heart silent. Around him, human soldiers backed away slowly. The Gorthak warrior knelt before him, eyes low like he was in the presence of something ancient, something dangerous, something awakened. Blood dripped from the ceiling, not from a wound, from a message. Above them, written in Gorthak script, freshly painted, in thick red lines were 6 words. The phoenix has breathed again. No one saw who wrote it. No one heard anyone climb that high. But it was there, waiting, watching. And everyone in the room felt it. The war they feared had already begun. Hours later, the ship was locked down. No one in, no one out. The human commander, General Voss, ordered full scans of the ship. Everyone was a suspect, human or alien, except Daniel. Because now no one wanted to be near him. Even the guards who once laughed at him stayed silent as he passed. Some whispered he was cursed, others called him a weapon with no trigger, but Daniel didn't care about them. He was trying to figure out why he still felt so calm. Curran found him in the observation deck, staring into space. "Why now?" Daniel asked. "Why are they waking me now?" Curran sat beside him, quiet for a moment. Then he answered, "Because the silence before war is always the loudest." Daniel turned toward him. "So this peace mission, was it ever real?" Curran's face stayed still. "It was a test. For both sides. For you." Daniel frowned. "Why test me?" The Gorthak warrior didn't blink. "Because you're the only one who speaks in blood and peace at the same time." That night Daniel couldn't sleep again. He walked the halls in silence. But something felt off. He wasn't alone. As he turned a corner near the ship's old maintenance deck, he saw flickering lights. Then, movement. A shadow slipped between walls, fast, inhuman. Daniel followed. His footsteps were silent now, controlled, predatory. He didn't feel like a translator chasing a mystery. He felt like a hunter following prey. The trail led him to a hidden room, one not on the ship's map. Inside, the air was cold. The walls were covered in strange writings, in both Gorthak and ancient Earth runes. The same ones from the Project Phoenix files. In the center of the room was a table. On it, photos, files, videos. All of him, from birth, from childhood, from training he couldn't remember. And one more thing, a cracked mirror. He stepped closer and looked into it. His reflection was different, just slightly. The mark under his skin glowed brighter now. His eyes flickered with a color not from Earth, and behind him in the reflection a figure stood. Daniel spun around. No one was there, but the air was breathing. A whisper hit his ears. No voice, just thought. "You were made for the fall of empires." Daniel stumbled back, heart racing. He grabbed one of the files off the table. It was marked Word 47 Failsafe Protocol. He opened it. Inside, if subject regains full awareness, containment becomes impossible. Use trigger phrase to delay activation. "You are only the message." Daniel read it aloud, trembling. "You are only the message." And for a second, everything stopped. His heartbeat slowed. The lights flickered. The mark on his arm dimmed. The fire inside him paused. The phrase worked. It slowed whatever was waking up in him, but it didn't stop it. And next time, he knew, it wouldn't work again. Suddenly, the alarm rang across the ship. "Unauthorized airlock breach. Sector 9. All units respond. Daniel ran. When he reached the sector, he found a nightmare. 2 human bodies on the floor, 1 Gorthak soldier stabbed through the chest. And in the center, a figure in a black suit, face hidden, hands glowing red. Daniel stopped. The figure turned. "You're awake," the figure said, voice calm. "Good. Then I don't need to explain." He threw a blade. Daniel moved without thinking, grabbed it mid-air. He didn't remember learning that, but his body did. They fought in silence, fast, brutal, like 2 ghosts tearing through a dream. Walls cracked, sparks flew, time slowed, and then Daniel pinned the stranger down. He tore off the mask. Underneath, a human face, but the eyes were Gorthak blue. Daniel stepped back in shock. "What are you?" The man grinned. "I'm what you would have become if you never broke the programming." He raised his hand, pressed a device on his wrist. A countdown started. 9, 8, Daniel shouted. "What did you do?" The man whispered, "The phoenix doesn't rise. It burns everything else down." The thing beneath the skin, Daniel. Ward didn't run. As the countdown ticked, 7, 5, he stared at the man on the floor, the traitor, the shadow, the version of himself that never escaped the programming. Daniel didn't blink. He just moved. 1 step, 1 punch, 1 hand over the detonator. 2, snap. The device broke apart in his fingers. Silence. The stranger lay gasping, blood leaking from his mouth. "You're not supposed to resist," he choked. Daniel knelt beside him. "You're not the only one with programming." The man's eyes dimmed. Then, "Who are you now?" Daniel whispered, still figuring that out. Later, in the ship's med chamber, Curran sat beside him. "You stopped the bomb," Curran said. Daniel nodded. "But not the war." Curran handed him something, a shard of broken mirror from the hidden room. The edges were red, still wet. "Look closer," Curran said. Daniel did, and this time, the reflection wasn't human at all. It was taller, stronger. Its skin cracked like stone. Its eyes glowed with the same blue as the Gorthak warriors, and its chest carried the same triangle symbol as the walls of the ship. "Is this me?" Daniel asked. "No," Curran said. "It's what's inside you, waiting." Daniel couldn't breathe for a second, not out of fear, out of memory. Flashes hit him, a battlefield under 2 moons, a war cry that shattered mountains, a voice saying, "Let the phoenix rise and let the gods fall." He dropped the shard. "I'm not that thing," he said. Curran tilted his head. "You think that's a monster? It doesn't look human. Maybe that's the point." They sat in silence. Outside, the stars passed by like silent watchers. Daniel whispered, "What if I lose control? What if I become that thing forever?" Curran stood. Then, slowly, he pressed his forehead to Daniel's. It was a gesture of trust. "Ancient and sacred, you will not lose control," Curran said, "because you are not the weapon anymore. You are the choice." The next day, everything changed. The humans voted to abandon the peace talks. The generals called for evacuation. The Gorthak did not stop them, but they watched, closely. Daniel stood in the middle of the empty council room, alone. His translator badge lay on the table. He wouldn't need it anymore, because the war of words was over. The real war was coming. Suddenly, a signal hit his ear. "Private channel, Gorthak frequency, Ward 47. We found the vault, the heart of the language. It's still alive." He took a dropship. No backup, just him, a dark sky and an old language whispering through his blood. As he reached the moon's surface, the ground shook. Not from tectonics, from something breathing beneath it. He walked into the vault, a massive stone gate covered in ancient words, some in Gorthak, some in human Latin, and some in a language no species remembered. But he did. He stepped forward and spoke. The gate opened. The inside glowed red, like the mouth of a dying star. At the center, something floated. A living code. A creature made of sound and light, no form, no voice, but Daniel understood it instantly. It spoke directly into his mind. "You carry my blood." Daniel swallowed. "What are you?" "I am the first word ever spoken in anger. I am the thing they buried inside you. I am the phoenix, and now so are you." Daniel dropped to his knees. The vault shook. Outside, alarms screamed. A massive energy surge was rising from the moon's core. Daniel looked up. "Why me?" The voice answered. "Because you are the first to survive the truth." The others went mad. You translated the madness. Back on the ship, panic spread. The moon was cracking. Ships were launching. Curran tried to contact Daniel. No answer. The vault lights turned blinding white. Daniel stood now, floating, glowing, and for the first time, he didn't feel afraid. He didn't feel like a translator or a soldier or a weapon. He felt like a key, the thing that unlocks peace or destroys everything. And then, Daniel opened his eyes and spoke 3 words into the universe. Words that had no meaning in any language, but every living thing heard them anyway. When the stars held their breath for the first time in history, the stars stopped moving. Or maybe it just felt like that. Because when Daniel Ward spoke those 3 ancient words, everything went still. The vault, the moon, the ship in orbit, the commanders, even the Gorthak war beasts, bred for rage, stopped, snarling. The universe listened. And for one long second, everything held its breath. Up on the ship, General Voss stared at the moon below. The scanners were glitching. Every machine showed something impossible. Linguistic shockwave detected. Gravity field. Reversed temporarily. Emotional interference. Across crew, 100%. Crew members wept. Some smiled. Others dropped to their knees, overwhelmed by something they couldn't name. Voss gritted his teeth. What the hell did he say? No one knew, not even the language AI. But everyone felt it. On the moon, inside the vault of words, Daniel floated, above the ground. The energy from the living code wrapped around him like smoke. It wasn't hurting him, it was waiting. Then, it asked, "Do you understand now?" Daniel nodded. "You're not just a weapon." The voice agreed. "I am the voice that was removed from history. The story they feared would be spoken again." Daniel breathed in slowly. "Then why me?" The code answered with a whisper Daniel felt in his bones. "Because you were never here to translate peace. You were here to reveal the lie that peace was built on." Suddenly the ground shook. From deeper below the moon's surface, something began rising. A machine. No, a prison. Buried centuries ago. Inside it, dozens of bodies, frozen, silent, each one marked with the phoenix symbol, each one, like Daniel. Failed versions, rejected hosts, forgotten weapons. Daniel backed away, breath catching. They were like me. The voice echoed softer now. No, they were the prototypes. You are the first to choose. And then came the warning. But you are not alone. A scream tore through the vault, not from a throat but from a memory. Daniel collapsed. Images hit him like thunder. Voss standing over a burning village. Gorthak warriors slicing through humans in cold rage. Hidden files. Secret pacts. The real mission. This was never about peace. It was about control. About testing which species could survive with the Phoenix code inside them. And only one had. Back on the ship, alarms blared. Curran stormed into the control room. "What did you do?" he shouted. Voss turned, eyes cold. "We gave him a chance to unlock the vault. And now we know he works." Curran's fist smashed into the control panel. "You lied." Voss didn't flinch. "You think we came here for peace?" he growled. "We came to see which one of you could carry the fire without burning. Turns out it's Daniel." He leaned closer to the screen showing the vault. "And now, he'll either become our god, or we'll bury him like the others." Daniel stood now at the center of the vault, surrounded by silence. He had seen. The truth. He had felt the weight of ancient betrayal, and he knew one thing. If he walked out of here, nothing would be the same. Not for Earth, not for the Gorthak, not for anyone. But before he could decide, a shadow stepped into the vault. A woman, human, tall, silver eyes. She smiled gently. I was the last phoenix before you. Daniel stared, heart frozen. You died. I was erased, she replied, because I chose not to kill. He whispered, and what happened to you? She reached out and touched his chest. I became the message. Suddenly, the vault began to collapse. The walls cracked. The light inside him flared. Daniel fell to his knees, overwhelmed. The woman's voice faded. You have one choice now. Ward 47. Burn the lie. Or become it. Up in the command ship, Voss gave the order, fire on the moon. The missiles launched. Back in the vault, Daniel looked to the sky. He saw death coming. And then, he spoke 3 new words, not of peace, not of war, but of something older, something true. The missiles stopped mid-air, hung like frozen stars, and then they turned, back toward the ship. In the command room, chaos erupted. Voss screamed, "What's he doing?" Curran answered, calm and steady. He's not translating anymore. He's commanding. And the last thing the stars saw before the blast was a man walking out of a broken vault, glowing like fire, smiling like someone who finally understood who he was, covered in blood and applause. The moon cracked behind him. A firestorm rained across the stars, and from the smoke, he walked out, alone, alive, changed. Daniel. Ward didn't look like a man anymore, not quite. His uniform was gone, burned away. His skin glowed under thin layers of smoke and ash. Strange marks pulsed beneath the surface like glowing scars, ancient symbols of a forgotten language. The vault had released its final truth, and it had chosen him. As he walked across the landing platform, the soldiers stared. They didn't salute. They didn't aim their weapons. They just watched, like people watching a storm that finally understood how to walk on 2 legs. One soldier whispered, "He's human, right?" Another answered, "I'm not so sure." General Voss stood at the front, face bruised, uniform torn from the blast Daniel had turned back on him. He pointed a shaking pistol at Daniel. "Stop right there, Ward." Daniel didn't stop. "You're under arrest," Voss barked. "You've broken every protocol. Daniel looked him in the eyes. Voss froze. Because he didn't see anger in those eyes. He saw mercy. Daniel spoke calmly. "You broke something worse than protocol. You broke the truth." Voss pulled the trigger. Click. Empty. Daniel kept walking. Voss collapsed. He didn't die, but his power did. Inside the Gorthak main hall, the elders had gathered. They saw the fire before they saw the man. Daniel entered slowly. His steps were heavy, not with pain, but with purpose. Every Gorthak warrior lowered their weapon. Even the strongest among them bent a knee. Daniel didn't smile. He didn't bow. He just looked at them and spoke. Not in English, not in Gorthak, but in the first language. The I, one buried deep in DNA, in memory, in the stars themselves. And what he said was this: "We are not enemies. We are the proof that the experiment failed, and that life found another way." Silence followed. Then, thunder. Not from weapons, not from war, but from hands, clapping. Slow at first, then louder, and louder, until the hall shook. The entire hall, alien and human alike, stood, and they applauded. For the translator who was never meant to fight, for the weapon who chose peace, for the man who walked into fire and came out with the truth. Curran met him at the center of the hall. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. They touched foreheads, and the fire between them didn't burn. It warmed. That night, across both fleets, a message was sent. It had no video, no threat, just a voice. Daniel's voice. My name is Daniel Ward. I was sent here to translate. But what I heard was silence, and silence is not peace. So I broke it. I am not a soldier. I am not a god. I am the message, and I am finally loud enough to be heard. On Earth, people cried. On Gorthak worlds, elders whispered his name, and in places far beyond both empires, other listeners began to wake up. Because the Phoenix Code was never just a weapon, it was a signal, a beginning, a reminder that even at the edge of extinction, one voice can start everything over. The next day, Daniel walked back into the old human base. His badge was waiting on the table. So was blood, dried, dark, and silent. He picked it up, wiped it clean, then placed it on his chest. Someone asked, "You're keeping the translator badge?" Daniel smiled just a little. Words can still stop wars. You just have to speak them loud enough. He stepped outside. Sunlight hit him. Reporters ran toward him. Cameras flashed. People clapped again. Applause thundered. Daniel stood still. His hands still carried the marks of fire. His chest carried the weight of choice. And his eyes? They were human, but deeper than before, like he'd seen the truth, and decided to survive it anyway. And so it was written. He was just there to translate. So why did he walk out covered in blood and applause? Because he was the only one who finally understood both, and he made the universe listen.